So we're here to continue our conversation with Candace Carnahan. On my notes I had Candace, the health and safety motivational speaker, the young worker advocate, and the inspirational speaker. Read the other day, Candace, a statistic saying that at this point in your life, you've reached over 350,000 people in your presentations. Mm-hmm. True?
500.
Up to 500,000?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I've been doing this for 24 years.
Did you ever think that you would ever reach that many people?
No, it's a lot of people.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot of people. But I mean, this is my full-time, my full-time work, and it's really, it's amazing to think that I've been lent the ear of that many people to respectfully hear me out and listen to my story, and and sometimes to have me back. I always say it's great to be invited, but it's even better to be invited back.
A number of years ago,
Mm-hmm.
Maclean's magazine
Mm-hmm.
had a story, Faces of the Future, Faces to Watch. You were featured one of those Faces to Watch. Mm-hmm. Worked out pretty well, hasn't it?
Yeah. I need a new accolade. This was for top 30 under 30, and I'm going on 45, so somebody nominate me for another award.
So, you started off, you did a lot of work for really first part of your career, especially young worker advocate.
Yes.
What are you doing these days relative to young workers?
Oh gosh, thank you for asking me this. I'm excited. This is I feel like it's old home week here, Pearlie, being back here talking to you and being back in New Brunswick and Fredericton, where, I started out my career, and on the heels of creating Step Up Your Safety. So I took kind of a hiatus from speaking in schools, not on purpose. I just ended up doing more corporate work. And I was doing some work with a fabulous group in Saskatchewan, Service Hospitality. And they're very, very focused on young worker health and safety. And they brought me out there to do work with them. And it was always a dream of mine to kind of do a passport to safety, but different. So when I talk about safety, I want to talk about emotional safety. I want to talk about being included. I want to talk, how are you going to use your right to refuse unsafe work if you don't feel like you have a voice? If you're on the outside of your workforce, if you don't feel respected, right? So being included is like, a right almost, just like it is to say, I don't want to do this job because it's unsafe. So I kind of feel that before we expect young people to exercise rights, to speak up, I would say if you see something, say something. You need to feel like you're part of a team. And so what can we do to introduce these ideas as part of safety? So Passport to Safety was very much about the nuts and bolts. And that's not, as I've said already, that's not really my forum, or my platform. So Service Hospitality partnered with me, and we went to work and did a school tour where I shared my story like I used to back in the day. But more importantly, because I may not be as hip as I used to be. So what we did was a round table at all of the schools we visited to talk to young people about what their concerns were. So I could get a sense of what are the issues today? And wow.
So what are they?
Okay, thanks for asking me. So first of all, young people are taking on so much. So a lot of what I heard was this idea when they go to their jobs that people of the older generation are saying, you should have lots of energy. You're just young. Well, one girl I talked to, one student I talked to, she works co-op. She works to pay to money for herself, not for outfits and fun. She needs to work. And then on top of that is going to school. So, yeah, she's tired, right? Just because you're young doesn't mean you don't have things that can be exhausting for you. Not every young person's just footloose and fancy free, right? I spoke to a student who was the only female working in the back of a kitchen with a group of men who, males, maybe her age, but they all spoke a different language. So she felt that they were speaking their own native tongue and not English. So she doesn't feel that she can communicate how she feels or questions that she has. There were students telling me about like working as lifeguards, working at the skating rink. So their job is actually to keep other people safe, but they don't have the support that they need, the first aid equipment or, the proper training necessarily. So they're feeling like, okay, I'm supposed to be looking after these 30 kids on the ice, but if one of them gets hurt, I don't have a fanny pack with first aid stuff. So, it was very, very eye-opening. Yeah.
So what all is in your material that you want to share?
So we are talking about, there is a section, like there's 4 segments in the program, and we're talking in one of them specifically about rights, responsibilities, how to exercise them. We're talking about having the courage to care, like what it looks like to speak up and to understand that it is your business. What's happening to other people is something that can affect you, and therefore it's up to you to address things that you see that seem unsafe, or to trust your instinct and speak up without fear of losing your job or being made fun of, and what it looks like to include other people. Like some people don't realize that they're not inclusive, right? They just think, because I'm not saying anything negative, that I'm inclusive. But are you introducing yourself? Are you asking somebody new? And it doesn't need to be a minority group. It could be somebody from a different country, somebody from a different school, somebody who is a different age group than the majority of the work person or the majority of the workplace. Like it's really, it's easy to feel like you're on the outside. So every day you ask yourself, what am I doing to make people feel safe? What am I doing to make people feel included? Talking about being different. I'm missing a limb. It's not always easy. I might look very happy and confident, but I still feel self-conscious sometimes. And so what do we do, right? It's really hard to speak up when you feel ashamed or when you feel self-conscious. So what can we do to work on pushing each other, holding each other up and whatnot? So all of these things are safety. And again, talking about emotional safety and your psychological well-being and understanding that you don't have to have a wound that we can see for you to be hurt and to have challenges and injuries that we need to consider, and giving you a space to talk about what's going on. The other thing I'll say, the last, is practicing resilience, practicing speaking up, practicing all of these tools that will help you when you need them, when the stakes are low. So I'll say, send your food back at a restaurant if it's not right. Don't think you're a nuisance. You don't need to be impolite. You can communicate very politely. Get used to asking for what you want and voicing if you're not satisfied when the stakes are low. Nothing's going to happen to you if your fries were overdone. But you can explain that and practice so that when the stakes are higher, you're more used to hearing your own voice. You're more confident in speaking up, and it's more of a second nature, natural thing that's happening. So a lot of that is, and it parlays into perhaps you get a grade that you don't want, right? Communicate that. And you still might not get the grade that you want, but you don't have to take the first answer you get in life. And I'll go back to my days when I first, because Pearlie, one thing that we didn't talk about is that there were 2 sides of me to WHSCC back then. I was a spokesperson for you, or for WHSCC, but I was also a claim.
Yeah.
Right? And I had seen these beautiful legs that were made in England, and when I wanted them, I was denied, and I had to appeal it. And okay, so I went through the process and I got the answer that I did want, and I got the legs that I did want. But I learned You might not always get what you want the first time you ask for it, or the second or the third. But if you really believe it's something you deserve, don't give up.
So how do you hope to see this roll out across Canada?
I'm actually meeting this afternoon with the Skilled Trades department here in New Brunswick. I am speaking at the co-op teachers event in Ontario on Monday. I've already spoken to the young apprentice skilled trades teachers in Ontario. Saskatchewan is rolling it out through Service Hospitality. What I hope to see is this program funded somehow and available for every high school student. It has a very obvious fit in co-op, skilled trades, technical, tech courses. But I mean, it doesn't matter if you're in those courses. Chances are great you still have a job. And if you don't, you will, right? And who doesn't need to talk about respect? Who doesn't need to talk about these things? They're not just specific to workplace health and safety. It's kind of a foundation so that the other things you're being taught, you can access, when the time comes. So I'd love to see it in the schools across the province. That's my dream.
So obviously you've done a lot over the years with young workers. You've done a lot of work at conferences. You've done a lot of work relative to corporations, companies, organizations, speaking to them. Probably not a new area, but inspirational speaker. Are you getting more and more calls? People want you to go in and maybe just from an inspirational point of view, deliver a message?
Well, see, I'm sneaky because even if that's not why I get called, I do it anyway. I still primarily, get invited to speak about safety, but the word has definitely gotten out that I will be talking more about inspiring people to make changes and whatnot. I'm writing a book right now, Half Price Pedicures. It's all about finding the silver lining, finding the positive in the negative. And again, in my mind, that's safety. It's putting you in a frame of focus. It's putting you in a state of presence. And that puts you in position to see risks, see hazards, and see ways you can help. So that's a book that's being written at the moment.
What else do you have on the go?
Oh goodness. What, like in my my cabins?
You have your cabins on the go?
I have the cabins on the go. I'm getting married.
You're getting married?
I'm getting married in October.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so that's I Step Up Your Safety for All Workers is also being created. So that's something that not every company has the budget or logistically is able to bring physical speakers in to reach their people. So I wanted to create a program that would allow them a personal story and whatnot done through virtually. And I'm also creating it so that people who do invest in me and invest in my message have something that they can use over the course of the year so that they can keep revisiting key themes, right? Instead of just getting pumped up and then losing momentum, which it can happen.
So you have a big event coming up in late November, early December?
The biggest event of my life.
Are you able to share that now with folks?
When is this going to be? When are we putting this on the air?
Nayosh week.
Oh, right, of
First
course.
week of May.
Yes, it's fine then. The announcement will be made by then. So I will be delivering the opening keynote at the World Congress for Health and Safety in Sydney, Australia in November. And so this is the largest health and safety conference in the world. And it only takes place every 3 years. So there'll be 4,000 delegates, from what I understand, from all over the world. And I'll be kicking it off. I get nervous just saying it out loud.
So will this be your biggest audience?
Yes.
That's...
This will be the biggest audience. It only compared to my first speech with Paul Kells in Toronto with Threads of Light. My first time I spoke with Passport to Safety with the at the convention center.
So can you give any teasers here? What will your message look like?
Oh, gee. Not really.
You've had a lot of taglines over the years. See something, say something, and so on.
Yeah. I think I will be focusing, I'll be working a little bit with the conference on aligning my messaging as we get closer to it, because I customize my messaging for every event that I do. They are very interested in the young worker side of things. They are interested in, another one of my taglines is, and a podcast I'm going to start next year, sharing stories, changing lives. So you can follow me on Instagram with Sharing Stories, Changing Lives, where I'm going to be the one in your seat, Pearly, and hearing stories from other people. So the Australia folks seem to be, or I shouldn't say that, the globe, that's where it is, but the organizers are interested in story sharing. And so I think I'll be talking about the importance of, people don't realize when you're standing on stage, they think, well, you're the one who's speaking, right? But it doesn't matter who you are. You know something nobody else knows. You've gone through something nobody else has, and somebody can learn something from you that they can't learn from anybody else. And I think that empowering people to dig deep, to find those little experiences and stories that people need to hear is more important than rhyming off rules and regulations sometimes, right? If we want to make safety matter, we have to make safety personal.
Very good. Any other messages you'd like to share while you're here?
No, I just, I'm just happy to be here with you in New Brunswick and kind of back where it all started. And I'm just really looking forward to getting my program going. And hope if you're listening to this and you're a teacher or you're in education that you, are we putting my contact info somewhere? Or
sure, we can do that.
Yeah, well, I'm CandaceCarnahan.com. And if you Google Candace One Leg, I will pop right up there in the searches. So I'm not hard to find. And I really am honored to be sitting in the chair and having spent this time with you and being allowed to share my story and my experiences. And as I mentioned, hopefully gaining some momentum with the program for youth here in the province.
I just finished doing a presentation a couple weeks ago in Halifax, and the title of my presentation is "Let Me Tell You a Story." And I'm like you. I've always believed, and I've been doing workshops for the last decade for safety services. And what people continue to tell me is they enjoy the stories. It makes it real. It's something they can relate to. And, I think in your case, certainly anyone that's followed Candace Carnahan, and again, you're, as you just said, you're very easy to find. And we encourage all our listeners to go on the internet, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever, and just Candace Carnahan. And your name pops up everywhere, Candace.
I'm everywhere.
You're everywhere.
And one more thing, I really would, Pearly, like to thank you. You and I are sitting across from each other now. We sat across from each other 23 years ago before I had ever shared my story with anyone. And that was one small meeting that changed the whole course of my life. And so thank you.
And your mom and dad, they certainly must be proud of you.
They are. They're very proud of me.
What you've become and the message. Keep delivering the message.
Okay.
And we'll keep following you.
Okay, that sounds good.
So thank you very much for all the listeners in our podcast. Again, we'd love to hear from you. You can reach us at podcast@ssnb.ca. If you have any feedback on today's podcast, or if you want to suggest a speaker for the future, we'd love to hear from you. And as Candace would say, if you see something, say something. We'll see you in a week's time. Thanks.